Anyway, so I went out there, and the girl laying on the ground, and I took her pulse, and she had no pulse, and she wasn't breathing. And there are people standing around, and some of them are coaches. And coaches have to take CPR training. Yeah. Everybody was just standing there and, looking. The girl survived. She did have a little bit of brain damage, but she did survive. But it was really a wake-up call to me that even if you're trained to do something, there's a significant percentage of people who will freeze, who just can't do anything. And as far as CPR, that number is as high as 70%.
Years ago, what we learned to do when you pulled up to the site of, say, a bad accident, and there's people half crouched out of cars or laying on the ground, as you start directing, you point at somebody and go, you call 911, you, do you know first aid or CPR? Well, yes, I do. You come over here and start to, you, and people will respond to that.
Right, totally. That is really a good point. It's with directions, people will tend to be able to.
They're waiting for direction.
Should I or should I not do it? Yeah. So those were the 4 things that we said had to happen in a medical emergency. Simple, straightforward. In our plan, for both just the functional appendices as well as the threat-specific appendices, we have 2 sections. One is preparedness activities. And this is where we've done most of the stuff, because we think about what do you need to do ahead of time to either prevent or to prepare for. So one of the first things we looked at was, what about these medical people? We know, this person's a doctor, this person's a nurse. I'm a nurse, but I'm a retired nurse. Could we get them together? Would they respond? And we think, well, they probably would, but you got to formalize it. So I went to everyone and said, would you be willing to help in the case of a medical emergency, if you're here, just to basically assess, triage, that sort of thing? Absolutely, every single one of them said yes. And so I said, okay, you're our med team. And I'm going to have the greeters and ushers know that, and I'm going to have the leadership know that, so that they're aware that we've got people who said they will respond. One of the other things we said is, okay, well, we want to make the number of people who have exposure to CPR and first aid and using an AED to be greater. So we've got Carrollton Police, fire, I think, that comes out, paramedics come out and do classes for us. The other thing that we did is we have a thing called red bags. And this bag was started up as a Stop the Bleed, if y'all are familiar with that campaign. Basically, it's for traumatic bleeding, and it comes out of Afghanistan and Iraq in applying a tourniquet or using the quick clot gauze. And so that was in these red bags. And they were kind of stuffed in closets and other things. And I thought, well, if we have an active shooter, that will come in use. That will be handy to have. But all the other stuff that might happen, whether it's a heart attack or a serious injury, what do we have? We had a on the wall in the office, kind of a first aid thing. So what we did is we took and we made up a separate first aid kit. And I went to school to people who were school nurses and said, what do you have in yours? Help me put the stuff together. So we did. We put together stuff, and we've got these now hanging in almost every room. The only room that doesn't have it is the nursery. Can't put a tourniquet on it.
Would you open it and tell us what's inside?
All right. Well, the towel is from the Stop the Bleed campaign. This is the first aid kit. And I think somebody's been in looking at stuff. Yeah, they have. Gloves. There's the tourniquet. And the quick clot, which is something that you rip open and you stuff into a wound that's bleeding.
Is that a powder or is that a gauze?
It's a impregnated gauze.
Okay. Because I just injured myself and it would not quit bleeding.
Yeah.
And I had some bleed stop, which is a powder. And you put that on there and then put the telfa pad on top and it instantly quit.
Yeah. For, you can use it on arms and things, but it's
Okay.
quick clot. We've got scissors in there, we've got gauze, we've got different bandages, we've got ace bandages, we've got, this is not your scratch, fall down sort of thing. This is a serious first aid kit that a medical person would want to have available. So those are around. And the med team knows about them now, RE teachers know about them. They're visible by the doors. And when we have if we were to have a tornado warning, we had to shelter, you take that with you. If you're to evacuate, you would take it with you, just in case. So you've got it. All right. Other preparedness things is you really got to get the word out, as I said. We've put on the back of our greeters and ushers badges the address to the church. In an emergency, if you're really stressed, and I said, what's the address of your church? You might know, you might be able to say, but there's a whole lot of us that wouldn't, just because of the stress of the situation. So on every badge, we have the address. On the back of the safety team's badges, there are the numbers of the leadership and like the med team and another team. Another thing that came out just in the training is we have a wheelchair. It's folded up and it's in this closet, which stays locked. So the thought is, okay, well, we'll have somebody with a key, and not everybody has keys, although it seems like it some days. We'll be able to get it out. And somebody brought up, very common sense, why not on Sundays we just take the wheelchair out and set it aside? So it's there that anybody could get. It's like, common sense, that works. So, and then the other thing that you brought up about assigning somebody, to know that you have to, if you have an emergency, you will need to assign somebody. Last thing for the preparedness is maintaining the emergency equipment like the AED, and eventually it'll be the first aid. I don't want to have to do that. It's our office administrator that does that. It's on a monthly check. She checks the AED monthly, and she'll be the one that gets new batteries and stuff like that. Kind of have to put it, you can't have it all in just one pile, one person, maybe, if you can do it. Okay, response. Again, making sure you know who the med team members are, greeters and ushers. The other thing is, who's there that Sunday? People come in and you may not notice them coming in. Maybe they're coming in a different door. We have several of our people who are medical people teach RE. So they're not in the sanctuary during that time. So we have to have a way so that we know who's actually here. Who could we call on? And way our plan works is that the greeter, the usher who notices the medical problem, they would notify either the safety team, the person at the welcome desk, again, that's our control center, or go right to the med person in the sanctuary. Doesn't need to go through the minister at all. just go straight to the source. And that's basically what the med team does in terms of assessing the situation, assessing the person, and assigning somebody. And maybe they're too busy, so it would be with the safety team people who are there. You go get the red bag. You go get the AED. Directions, you go do this, and you're more likely to get a result. Also to have somebody at the front door. So in case you call 911, they're gonna, I don't know about your place, but we've got doors all over the place, and it's like, which door? So we've got to have somebody outside who would direct the paramedics 911 to come. All right. You also will need somebody to stay with the person. Maybe the medical person can't do it. Maybe you need, it's always helpful to have two. No matter what you do, it's better if you have two people, one person and a backup. You're going to need to make a space. You know, it's kind of common sense sort of thing. And make sure that the minister and the board president is notified. Because you don't want them to hear in the paper that somebody had a heart attack, you know, or somebody broke a bone. And so make sure that they're notified. And then lastly, after something like a medical incident, you need to have a write-up, a short brief. Here's what happened, here's what I did, sort of thing. So that's our medical plan. That's basically what we're doing. We were talking about this with last week with the ushers and greeters, and talking about communication, and you know, when we talk to we've got walkie-talkies, and we're on the walkie-talkie, and we're talking to the RE teachers, and you know, what's going to be said and all that. And there was concern about using the phrase active shooter. We have an active shooter. And one person who is a nurse, she listened to this discussion going on, and she's a nurse and in charge of an ER, and she said, you know, it bothers us much more than it bothers our kids. If they are in public school, they have these drills all the time. They hear these phrases, you know, they're doing the fire, they're doing the sheltering, and they're doing the lockdown. And, you know, they're much more matter of fact in general than we are. I thought that's sad, but it kind of is true, because they get it regularly in public schools. We broke ours down into two areas, disruptive or threatening behaviors, because it really is two different things. Somebody coming in that's really upset about something or shouting about something is totally different than somebody that shows up with a gun that's armed. So we look at it, you know, is it violent or is it disruptive? Again, when we started off, we went to, well, what about the people in our congregation? What kind of experience do they have? So we have 6 people on what we call our D team, or our de-escalation team is the full. People that have experience, either because of their training or their experience, are comfortable in dealing with disruptive people. I probably would not, I mean, I would do my best, but I'm not as comfortable and relaxed with it as some of our other people are. And when I went to these 6 people, to a person, all 6 of them immediately said yes, they would do that. So we, the ushers and greeters, need to know who those people are, and we're going to have laminated pictures on the front desk now. And but you know, it is helpful to me. When the summer, for example, I was gone most of the summer, and there was an issue with the doors. Our doors sometimes don't want to lock easily. And 2 of the deep team people were in the sanctuary, and I heard that they got up and they immediately went out there, and you know, what didn't have anything to do with a disruptive person, and fixed the problem. And I thought, you know, this is really buy-in. They're feeling like they can do something to help. So, now, you all know where the doors are to this room? Where are the two areas of doors? There's those, and there's one back there, right? A lot of people, you come into a room and you never notice it. People, if they have to evacuate, they tend to want to go out the same door you came in. Well, that's frequently just the way you don't want to go. So, this is the thing that we keep reinforcing is when you come into a room, take a look around. Where are the exits? And to think, too, maybe you're in a room that only has one exit, but once you get out into the hall, there's several ways you can go. And the ushers and greeters, they need to know that. So, a lot of this is, in the training, we'll talk about it, but we want them to, the ushers and greeters and the rest of the safety team, to kind of integrate this into their thinking. So the next time you're in a restaurant or something, look around. If you had to evacuate immediately, where would you go? How could you get out? Just a good thing to stick in there. We have our evacuation, our lockdown, and our shelter announcements to be read by whoever's in the pulpit, and a little notebook in the pulpit. We've also got a copy at the welcome desk. We went around and looked at where's the best place to shelter. You can. For the classrooms, it's pretty easy. It's not so easy in some of these big rooms. Not very easy at all. But again, we went over the chain of communication. This is a different one for this. This is really important on this one. For a disruptive person, the minister should know just as soon as possible. And so should your DLRE or your RE manager, because you've got the kids. That group has got to know. This is basically what we are doing now, is that the building is locked at all times unless there's somebody there at the door. We have cameras that were installed a long time ago, actually, to show areas that show live views, and some of it is recorded onto a hard drive. The issue with those, we found, is that you have to be sitting there watching the live feeds, and nobody does that. We don't. So we put in some Ring doorbells that are motion activated, and whoever is signed on to the account will get notified pretty immediately. It's also been really handy for our office administrator when there are deliveries, package deliveries, or other things, because they sit in the back and they don't have a view to our front door. So. And that was pretty cheap. For groups that are going to be coming in and out, such as the Horizon players, we have keys that they can check out and then check back in so they can get in. So we don't have to give everybody a key. All the RE teachers check out walkie-talkies. These are real basic, very inexpensive walkie-talkies. We keep one at the welcome desk, and we have two a little bit more complicated ones that we can run two different channels, just for the RE, but also for the DLRE and the RE, so we can get the word out. But to have our backup plan is what we've done is we've also got the phone numbers of all those people out there. So you don't ever want to have a plan for something without having a backup. Well, what if that fails? You have another way. So we've got that. All the classroom doors have little curtains that will roll down. Public schools use this a lot. When you go into the library, you can look and see at them, see how they work and roll up. And basically, they're just fabric that will roll down and cover that window that's in the door, so that if they're in a lockdown situation, with the door locked, nobody can see in. We're going to work on either these what's called door diapers or door masks, and they kind of look like a flat mask with two elastic straps, and they go over the locking mechanism, I don't know what you call it, on a door, because our doors to our classrooms will lock from the outside, but they can't lock them from the inside. So what these will do is they go around the door handles and then hold that locking mechanism open or closed out of the way so that they can get in and out during the day, but if they needed to lock the classroom quickly, they just undo it and it'll lock. Another thing we're going to do that Peggy brought up was that we're going to label our doors. I don't know about you, but we've got all these doors and everybody calls them something different. So we're going to label them and give them a number, and so that we know that when we're talking about sanctuary doors, which doors are those? You know, we're talking about the office doors, that's one thing, the back doors. For example, down the end of this long hall, everybody was calling it back doors. So I said, well, that's not back, those are front, those are back. He said, no, those are the back ones. So, again, a lot of it is little things. It's, you know, remember the Hans Brinker story of the boy who stuck his finger in the dike sort of thing. And I think safety is a little bit like that. There's just, you do things and think, oh, well, what about this? We need to fix that. And what about that? We need to fix that. And that's what, you know, and that was just a common sense thing that's like, okay, that makes sense. Every week, we remind our ushers and our greeters to show up with cell phones that are charged and leave them on. So, and they've been doing a good job of that. So it's just a simple thing so that they have, if they had to call 911 or whatever, they have something there that they can do it right then. Another thing that I really push, and that's called situational awareness. In other words, pay attention to your surroundings. You know, if you see something that looks different, say something to somebody else. Go to the welcome desk, or even just talk to your other greeter. Knowing about where your other exits are is, again, it's situational awareness. When you're ushering in the sanctuary, we want, you know, keep an eye on the people. You know, you can look at see if somebody slumps over or somebody's having a hard time. There may not be another person right next to them. But our job is not just to hand out orders of service and pass the basket. It's to be present there as an usher. I also say, you know, and this comes from my nursing background, assess or observe is another word for it. You've got whatever situation, if you're front door greeter, whatever, if you're an RT, assess the situation. Kind of, you know, observe. Is something happening? Does it ring a bell? Does the red flag go up? And then notify somebody, even if it's just your other partner, your other greeter. And then you're going to act in some way. Those are the three things. Are you going to actively help? Are you going to notify somebody? What are you going to do? You've got to, there's an action that happens after that. We keep 2 people in the lobby the whole time the service is going on. So that means that they're not in the sanctuary that Sunday. We actually were lucky we were able to at least put the audio into the lobby. But so we have a front door greeter and we have somebody at the welcome desk during the whole service. And, you know, people are getting used to doing that now. At first it was, you know, I'm usually just here till 10:40 and then I zip into the service and, you know, sort of thing. And they're comfortable with it. I think they like the idea. What we've also done is we've formalized locking up. We rent out to people. We have small groups that come here at odd hours. And so we formalized the close-up check sheet. Goes through all the different areas, what you need to make sure is off. And every door has one of these. All the small groups also got copies of it, but this hangs by the door. And it's for Sundays too, not just weekday renters and groups. So we, you know, I think, I look at like one of our best defenses against any human cause threat is the building itself. The building is pretty secure. And so we need to make use of that. We need to make sure that it works. I don't know about you all, but there's been times when people have come in and the doors are unlocked. You know, it happens. Maybe the latch didn't close right. Maybe the rug was in the way. You know, that kind of stuff happens. We want to reduce that chance of it happening as much as we can. Our office administrator every day takes a quick walk around the building just to make sure everything looks okay. You know, there's no broken windows or anything else. It's kind of the little things, I think, that really help to make a place secure. Okay. All right, so these are, I said, you know, we had our preparedness activities. These are our response activities. These are what happens. Threatening or disruptive behaviors. And some of the, okay, we're going to notify the minister, the D team, if it's just disruptive, and the DLRE as soon as possible, the classrooms, to get the word out. Board president needs to know. So that's another thing the ushers need to know. Where is that board president sitting? Are they here this Sunday? Well, then it's the vice president. We've got our chain of authority. And if it's not the minister or the president or the vice president, we have another board member. And by that time, I think, you know, we've gone through 4 people. We're likely to have one of them there. For most of these situations, it's up to the minister to make the decision on what to do. You have a disruptive person and you're talking to them a lot, and, you know, hopefully you've moved the conversation outdoors. What happens next, a lot of times is going to be determined by the minister or whoever's in charge that day. Something that we did during one of the times when this disruptive person that showed up with us we did what's called a lockup. And it's basically just making sure all the doors are locked and that the classrooms are locked. It's not, you know, the lockdown where everybody hides and quiet sort of thing. It's just you kind of lock things up. And obviously, if it escalates, 911, you know, you don't, I know this may not work every area, but it works well for us, and we have a good relationship with them. Okay. I'm going to put you all to sleep. All right. One of the first questions I want the greeters and the ushers to do is, does the situation require an immediate response? Even if somebody shows up with a gun and a holster, we have a posted sign saying no guns are allowed, I think. But there's sometimes with a gun that it doesn't need an immediate response. We don't have to call 911 that way. It's not immediately dangerous. It's not, you've got a chance perhaps to talk to this person. And we look at the history for this disruptive person. He'd been to the church many, many times. It was always the same sort of thing. And you look at that and you say, okay, you know, you do the same thing over and over again, you're just going to get the same results. And so that will impact how you deal with it. Make sure you really inform the appropriate people. Can't say that enough. Messaging is so important in any of these issues. The Unitarian Church in Rockford, Illinois has a really pretty good, and they just came out with it this year, policy regarding conflicts and violations of covenant and destructive behavior. I don't think it's on Dennis's list of resources, but it's a decent one. It's through, I think I got to it through the UUA, and it was one of the options that was listed. Our violent behavior is pretty straightforward. Any evidence, first, again, assess the situation, see if it's immediate. Got to do something right now. And if it's serious. Serious means there's weapons involved of some sort. If there's evidence of that, seriousness, weapons, it straight to 911 as far as what the response is going to be, other than how you're going to inform the congregation of what to do. You want to make sure at the same time you alert another person. Most of the time, you don't want one person just to have that information. You need to tell somebody else, so you have a partner. And that's basically, I'm assuming it most likely would be a member of the safety team, a greeter, an usher, goes minister, DLRE, RE teachers, and AV, all kind of at the same time to get the word out. And this is the scenario we go with. Run if at all, leave the situation if at all possible. As far as you can, as fast as you can. That's what the RE teachers are going to do with their classes. Second choice is the hide or lockdown. So, and then, pretty straightforward, fight is last resort. But scary situation. Okay. As I said, it's, building a safer congregation is really an ongoing process. It is a learning process for everyone. Regularly, I would say, update your procedures. It really helps to clarify your thinking if you have it written down what you're going to do. Otherwise, it's, such and such and such and such, and it's like, it's not good enough. This way you can bounce it off other people on your team. The child release procedures, say you have an evacuation, have those specified so that there's a process by which teachers are going to release the children to their parents. After the event, after actions, things, the fears and anxieties that have got to go on for those of you that have had a church that have had it are a big issue. I can barely imagine. It's good to have something in place. Who's gonna organize that? Do you have a different group that deals with that? Is it gonna just be the minister or whoever's in charge? So think that through. And knowing that you have to write something down I think it encourages you to have a process, because you can't write down nothing. You gotta have something in place to write down. Communication, crisis communication is one of the biggest issues in any emergency event. And who's going to do it? What's the process? There's lots of stuff out there on crisis communication. The big thing is consistent messaging. It's reassuring to congregants, it's reassuring to staff, and it sends a consistent message out there to the public in general. You want to, so-and-so said and so-and-so said. So have a consistent message. Remember to have backup plans in terms of, something as simple as the doors. If we don't go out that door, we could go out that door. Or if, for a lot of the children's classrooms, they have doors to the outside. So we hear the noise or shooting whatever out that door, well, we can go out the other way, so know that. And know that you just really got to be flexible. Nothing goes according to plan, 100%. But if you have some stakes in the ground and you have basic guidelines if you work from plan.